to be educated, but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before the new. Rewind, take it out of cue. Innocence can be a young man's game. Signed up for the hall of shame. I wish I knew.
TikTok sensation and Instagram influencer who goes by Fernie recently took a trip to Italy with two of her friends who were Caucasian. Now, if you don't know Fernie, she's an African-American woman originally from Bronx, New York, but she's lived across the U.S. and she's well-traveled. So during this trip to Italy, she faced a serious amount of racism. And given the recent history of Italy, no one is surprised, and the video is obviously going viral, with other people chiming in with their own experiences having visited Italy and living in Italy for some years. And they all agree, yes, Italy is a racist place. So I want you to get into what she had to say and some of the testimonials from people who have gone there and some people who live there.
Visiting Rome, Italy right now, and I'm pretty sure this is the most racist place I've ever been. I've been to Europe before with zero issues, but this is a whole other level. I'm traveling with my two white friends, and we accidentally got on the wrong train, and we figured it out. We quickly grabbed our bags so we could transfer over to the other train. As I grabbed my bag, this lady with a baby stroller yelled at me in Italian, even though I wasn't really that close to her. And so I said, "Mi dispiace," because obviously maybe she was like coming this way. No, she was literally just standing there. And she looked at me like I was about to harm her child and yanked the baby away. And when I apologized to her, even though I really shouldn't have, the look of absolute disgust in her face spoke a million words. I was standing on a second train station platform when there were two workers coming by in this mobile cart. They were coming directly towards me, even though there was plenty of space. They honked at me and looked me straight in the eyes with the most annoying look, like they looked very irritated that I was standing there existing. So I move out the way and I see them continuously drive near a group of white people. And they don't honk or do anything. They go out of their way to go around the group of white people, even though there's a bunch of them and there was only one of me. I was at the Coliseum the same day taking photos with my friends, and this one guy started tutting at us and waving us aside like we were dogs, as he wanted to take a photo of the Coliseum and we were in his way. He then yelled, "Move," in perfect English. So I said, "Do you know how to say please in English too?" And he just ignored me. We're on the subway looking lost, and the security guards came up to my white friend and asked if they needed help and was super nice to her. They completely ignored me. For comparison, not only did she get help with that, but she dropped her phone on the train platform, almost underneath the train, and a worker literally went practically underneath the train to retrieve her phone. She was also given a random free week-long bus pass by a complete stranger for no reason. Seeing the stark difference between the way that my white friends who I'm traveling with are treated and the way that I'm treated is like, whoa. Like, I literally feel like this is worse than America. All of this happened within a 4 or 5 hour period. In my entire time in Turkey, I haven't experienced any discrimination whatsoever. Not once. With all that being said, I am already ready to go home. I think I'm going to give it another chance because I've only been here for 1 day. But if I've experienced all of this crap and rude people in 1 day, I really don't have much hope for the rest of this trip. I'm supposed to be here for a week, but I'm honestly thinking about changing my flight. This place is a complete shithole.
Istanbul airport because I had to flee Italy a week early. I was facing constant harassment from the second I got off the plane. It was so in your face that my white friends sent me home for my own safety and are beating themselves up about accidentally sending me to a fascist hellscape. And since my last video before I got to the airport, this guy was explaining something to me and my friends, and then he suddenly stopped, stared at me and said, "Wait, do you speak English?" Why would I be the only person in my group of American friends who does not speak English? I've been stopped in stores, yelled at in public several times, almost run over. Sorry, Rome, but I have to roast you real quick. If you're Italian and you're not racist, you can exit out of this video. I'm not talking about you. I understand that people are upset that I previously referred to Rome as a shithole. I would just like to double down on that statement and say that if Rome has 1 hater, it's me, and if Rome has 0 haters, I am dead. Pretty sure these people literally have beef with Jesus Christ himself. Y'all literally invented fascism and democratically elected a Mussolini light to run your country. You guys have literally evolved past needing a dictatorship for fascism. Honestly, I'm pretty sure you guys are just mad that you are the most Arab-looking Europeans on the continent. Hey, cousin. Y'all are literally one missed sunscreen application from looking like my brown ass, and you lose sleep over it. Most importantly, you're still upset that you got an F- on your attempted invasion of Ethiopia. You can't even colonize properly, so you have to settle for treating people of color who visit your country to spend money like shit while your economy is on fucking life support. Get your money out. Also, your pizza sucks dick. America does it better.
You guys literally don't even realize it, but this reply goes crazy. Like, all I say is, some Italians look like Arabs, and people are like, how dare you insult Italians like that? First of all, you're racist. I urge you to unpack why you automatically think that the word Arab is an insult. Second of all, literally 4 seconds later, I say that they're mad because they look like me, and they almost have my skin color even. So yes, Italians are mad that they look Arab. You know why? Because A, many actually do have North African ancestry. It's just a fact. And they really resent that because they're coveting their proximity to whiteness as much as they can, so they're literally extra racist just to compensate for that. Most importantly, I look Arab and I'm also hot, so miss me with that. Anyway, I will now proceed to show you my favorite actual racist comments, for your viewing pleasure, of course. Okay, so this is my first favorite one because "don't call me racist or I will lynch you" is probably the best take ever. Like, the comment parodies itself. This one is a close second because actually they don't know that Italians are my favorite race besides white people. And the threat of dismemberment is kind of iconic.
Linguini, Mario, mozzarella, oh no.
This one is wild because I've never been to Africa, but literally everybody likes me, so. This one is iconic because black women are literally the most college-educated demographic in the United States. Also, Meghan Markle, fine as hell. I like this one because they used an emoji to try to get around the TikTok spam filter, but it got caught in the filter anyway, which is such a fucking L. Of course, there's a few hundred more, but those are just my favorites. I'm not sharing these so that you guys console me or feel bad for me, no. I'm sharing these because it's the Italian Ministry of Tourism's worst fucking nightmare. Now, I don't have beef often, but when I do, we're gonna beef forever. I will not be returning to Rome. I will be going back home to Turkey, where I am treated very well. I will make my vacations to Greece, where I am treated very well. And I hope that you guys get to one day see the world without having to worry about how you're going to be treated, because you should be treated well if you treat other people well. And I hope that if you aren't treated well, that people empathize with you and tell you that you don't deserve to be treated that way, instead of letting you know what you did to deserve being treated that way, besides existing.
So a few people have sent me the links to that woman's video, and basically this woman is in Rome and she experienced so much racism through microaggressions that she cut her trip early. And the one thing it made me start to think about is like when I came here and visited Italy for the first time. And I can't help but to wonder if these things had happened to me or anything similar, would I have returned when my partner wanted me to? Because I realized meeting him the very first day that I arrived, that created a somewhat of a buffer, probably. And I was kind of like not experiencing things that people normally do. And even when I went to Venice and to Rome, I spent the most time in Rome. Like early in my trip, I met another guy there. And it was like this African guy who like invited me out for drinks. He worked at some sort of bar, but I do remember thinking about other people who approached me, what they were thinking, like, was I a sex worker or something? Because I remember that same night when I was meeting this guy, this white Italian man met me in the piazza. He started talking to me and he was like fascinated because it's like he'd never seen a brown person with my eye color, right? And he kept inviting me back to his place for a party. But anyway, I was going out with this dude who showed up and was like, you know, whatever. And so I went out and got drinks with him. But then I think my first 2 years here as well, I didn't really experience anything because I was always either with my partner or his parents. And I think that added another layer or buffer where I didn't experience things until I was actually on my own and by myself more. And also early on, not speaking the language, I remember times where my father-in-law would like correct people for addressing me informally when I guess we were at like administrative things, then they should have addressed me formally or something. So even some things may have gone over my head because I just didn't understand what was happening because I didn't speak the language at all. But like now that I have had more experience on my own, I definitely feel what she's talking about, and it can become overwhelming. And the fact that even other Black people will attack you and say, well, you shouldn't do this or do that because you know people are a certain way. It's not fair to tell people they have limits in this life and tell them to limit their experiences because other people are uncomfortable. And it only seems to happen to people who look like us. But yeah, I guess it just got me to thinking, would I even be here if this had happened to me?
Guys, a lot of places in Italy are quite racist, even like places of worship where you think they'd be quite inclusive. I'm in there as a South Asian guy, my brother who looks maybe a little bit more South Asian than I do, more like stereotypical if you will. The second we walk in, the priest is giving us mad evil and I don't really understand why. People were like sat down on this place and we all sat down and we were told to stand up like quite aggressively. So I was like, cool, we're not allowed to sit there. But it's the fact he singled us out. And then loads of people were talking like throughout the place. But he singled us out again, was like, stop talking. And I was like, that's okay, I don't mind they're not talking, but we're the only ones being told. Everyone else in there didn't look like us. And he was like shouting and like doing all this and like really angrily. So I was like, I'm very sorry. Like clapping, finger pointing, all that kind of stuff, saying lots of stuff. bear in mind, this time lots of people are talking. We're the only ones being told to shut up, and we're all like being very quiet. And then even when we stopped, he was like saying stuff and being really angry. So we just walked out. Racism is alive in Italy, and that's not my only experience of racism here, guys. I've only been here 2 days.
A lot of people are talking about the racism in Italy right now, which I find fascinating. So racism definitely exists in Italy, and I think it's heavily dependent on where you are in the country. So I found that South Italy is much less racist than Central and North Italy. But I wasn't born and raised in Italy, so I cannot speak on the fine and minute details on being a Black Italian. Also, Italy has a lot of colorism. And then classism definitely comes into play. For example, I'm American. I have passport privilege, and I'm not seen as coming from a lesser country. Also, if anybody was racist to me, they would just it would fly out. If it wasn't me, it'd be my husband or my mother-in-law, because Lena will break you. So don't come for me, because I'll send her after you.
I basically just had the most racist experience in Italy.
How did I know that when I went into the comments of that video of the woman describing the racist thing that happened to her in Italy, I was going to find comments dismissing her experience? Are people like that not tired of upholding white supremacy? Are your backs not ready to give in? Like, why are you so committed to this? You were not there. Personally, after decades of avoiding going to Italy, I went on a trip to Venice with my partner a few years ago. And first thing we did was stop at a sandwich shop that had been recommended to us. As soon as you walked in, it fell silent. They took an insane amount of time serving the people in front of us. And then when we got to the front, they told us that they didn't accept cards, which we thought was strange because it was Venice, but maybe that's common. So we went and got cash. And then when we came back, despite the fact that it was still open and there were people sat down, they said that it was closed. Yeah. Was that racism? Yeah, probably. And if I call it racism, I don't need to hear from user 12487 telling me that, well, maybe they decided to close at 3:47 on a Wednesday because that's the time they decide to have a nap. I don't want to hear it. I don't know why you're so committed to fighting this fight, but you're losing and we're going to push past you. People that make comments like that and respond to racist incidents like that need to accept that they are agents of racism themselves. I don't want to hear it from you anymore. You are a white supremacist. You are fighting to uphold white supremacy. And if you're not, next time, just be quiet.
As an Italian person, I unfortunately agree with her. There are so many stupid-ass racist people in my country, and I've got my own opinion regarding why I think there are so many racist Italian people. So the average racist, stupid person in Italy has an inferiority complex towards other white people because they don't look as white as other white people. They don't look as white as English people, French people, Scandinavians, whatever. You know, them ones. The privileged white people. So because of this inferiority complex, in order to prove that they're privileged and white, they treat people of color like shit. And I think this is the reason why our country is so behind every other country in Europe, because we don't give everyone the same possibilities. So I hope this makes some Italian people wake up and think, maybe I should treat other people well, because our country is doing shit compared to a lot of other countries that are not as racist as us. Our workplaces lack of diversity, and this is one of the reasons why our country is stuck. This is my humble opinion.
If you are into your classical music and opera specifically, you might know about the Arena of Verona, which is an amazing setting, sort of like mini Colosseum, where opera happen, gigs even happen, but it's really, really relevant and important. They have a summer program, and they're gonna do operas like La Traviata, Aida, so all lyrical operas. Angel Blue, which is a black woman soprano from America, was invited to play Violetta in La Traviata. Well, a couple of days ago, she made a post letting them know that she was withdrawing from the invite that she received because she was appalled that the Arena of Verona still allowed singers to sing in blackface. And I think in the same program, there was going to be a white soprano playing Aida from Giuseppe Verdi's Aida, who is an Ethiopian princess. And to this day, that is a role that in Italy is still played in blackface. She made a point, Angel Blue made a point that there is no way that blackface could ever been done without offense. And she's black woman. She does know what she's talking about. As usual, you should listen to the people that are at the receiving end of discrimination to learn what actually contributes to the discrimination that they experience. And that's when white fragility gets in.
During our trip, we had a lot of instances where it didn't feel like we were being served in a timely fashion in restaurants. And I don't know if that's just like a European thing, because sometimes I do feel like when I travel through Europe, they're not as quick to like come and check on the table and things like that. I do think it's because of the way the wages are, and that a lot of times they get paid for wages, so they're not really working off tips as much. That's my assumption. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know. But then I really did feel like it was taking extra long. And one restaurant I went to, I had a reservation. It was a restaurant by the Coliseum, so I wanted to go there. Like, you can see the Coliseum at night for dinner. And I said I had a reservation, and they just looked at me like, okay. Again, it was just like, I mean, you guys don't want us to eat here or whatever. I mean, it was late at night, so we ended up sitting at that restaurant actually, and it just took forever to get everything, and I actually regret even giving them any business, to be honest. Another time I was on a train, I was again in the business class section, had a nice area where I can sit, and this was a longer train, so I had like a table, and I had like my things on the table. The person next to me had their things on the table. It was like a woman that was with her husband. And when I came into the train, they were there first. She just gave me like the most evil stare. I mean, I just walked on the train, put my things down on the table. She gave me the most evil stare, and she was sitting like across from me on the table and like moved all her things. She started speaking. I don't know what language she was speaking, but I didn't understand her. And she was telling her husband something, and they just looked at me, and then she just stared at me literally for like the whole entire 5-hour train ride. And she was like clutching her things as if I was gonna like steal from her or something. It was very bizarre. I just literally ignored her, enjoyed my train ride, took a nap, woke up, but it was like she was just like staring at me the whole time and just saying things. And I can tell there was not nice things just by the reactions on their faces. But I was just like really confused. And again, the only thing I could attribute it to was race. Now I'm trying to touch on like the really overt things that happened and that stood out. I'm trying to make this short and to the point. There was definitely a lot of like microaggressions, like people just like walking by not saying excuse me, like bumping into me, just totally acting like I didn't exist. Happened to my friend too. The dirty looks, you know, consistently. You can just kind of tell you didn't feel that welcomed in that country, in Italy at all. That's how I felt. And yeah, again, I'm not trying to deter people from going, but I'm just telling you exactly what happened. And I'm being honest, and I'm being straightforward. And I think this is the last thing I'm going to really touch on. My friend was leaving Italy separately from me. We split up. She was going to an African country. I was going back to the U.S. And she was trying to get on the plane. Mind you, we packed carry-on bags for this whole trip to Italy because, you know, the baggage situation in Europe has been crazy. We didn't want to deal with any missing bags or anything like that. And we had a layover on one of the legs, so it was just like that's more room for error. So we packed these carry-on bags. So when she got to the airline to go on the plane to board her flight, they said that she can't take her carry-on bag. Mind you, they were letting other people take their carry-on bags on her flight. So, you know, she made a point to like bring that up, and they were kind of like, oh no, that's not true. But it was true. People that, you know, did not look like her, that were not black people, not black women, were able to bring their carry-on bags, and she was not. It was the facts. And actually happened to me one time, sidebar, when I was going on a flight on Delta, and I complained about that because when you got on the flight, there was so much space to put my bag, and I got a nice reward from Delta from that. So don't be afraid to speak up if y'all have any issues with anything on these flights. But anyway, back to my story. They didn't let her take the bag. She had to check her bag or whatever the case may be, because what are you gonna do? She got to get on the flight anyway. And she filed a complaint because, again, other people who were not black women were able to bring on their carry-ons. So I felt like overall the sentiment was that we're not welcomed, and that they were going to make our lives a little bit more difficult, and let us know that we were not welcomed in Italy, to be honest. people ask me like how Italy was, I have to, I tell them all the good parts. Like I enjoyed Amalfi Coast and Italy as a whole, as far as the food went and like the activities that I did while I was there. The weather was nice. It was a place that I've been really wanting to go. I got to visit another world wonder, which was amazing, at the Colosseum. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the actual overt racism that I experienced there. And so again, this is not to deter anybody. I was trying to analyze like what was like I was trying to say like, am I wrong? Am I crazy? Am I bugging? But it was really mostly, for the most part, and like all these examples I gave you was women, Italian women that lived there. The men were really flirty. They were kind of like a little bit too flirty actually, and that's another story, but they were really nice, welcoming. The women, not so much. And when I came home, somebody was telling me like a lot of Italian men like black women, which I could tell when I was there. That was definitely the case. They seemed very interested, but the women not so much. So I was thinking perhaps the women don't like us there because their men do.
I don't think there is a most racist place than Italy in the whole freaking universe. And let me tell you why. We literally hate each other in the same freaking country. People from the north despise people from the south, and we literally create beef around two cities that are literally next to each other. I live in the freaking mountains, where literally in a little village where 5 people live at most. And they all hate each other because like one lives above the other and stuff like that. Oh my god, and don't even get me started on Asian people. Like, Asia doesn't exist for the average Italian person. It doesn't exist. It's all China. Japan is China. Singapore is China. Korea is China. It's all China. And if I say that my boyfriend is Chinese, they will tell you, so he likes to eat dogs. Or if I say, let me introduce you to my best friend, she's Japanese, that's what they will say to her. Ching chong chong, ciao. That's what they will say to her. And if you don't think that's racism, tell me what it is. So for the first time, I'm gonna agree with the American lady. We literally hate everyone in Italy. Everyone. So she's right.
I don't know how Italians behave normally, or if their recent behavior is due to the influx of migrants. But I mean, join the club. America's going through the same exact thing. But African Americans, we don't mistreat people just because they're foreign to us. We it's amazing. Black people in general know how to be proper hosts to guests. And it seems like other nations have mainly Europeans, have a really big problem in conducting yourselves as proper hosts. But the thing about us as guests, especially African Americans, if you tell us, hey, we don't want you here, you don't have to keep telling us. We just won't come back, and we will make sure that everybody in our community is informed. Over there is a dangerous place, and you won't have to worry about seeing too many of us unless it's business or something like that. So for her to have this horrific experience in Italy, just visiting, this is a well-traveled young lady, full of life, full of vitality, and all she wanted to do was visit Italy. And don't you understand, when we go somewhere, if you see an African American somewhere, we're coming because we want to experience a culture that is different from ours. We want to experience something different, and we want to be welcome. But Italy doesn't have to worry about that. Not from me, and not from the people I've shared this with, because everybody is like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna worry about Italy. It really wasn't a high priority place to visit in the first place. So now it's definitely a non-factor moving forward. A lot of Italians, of course, from what she said, they're mad. I guess some Europeans are mad. Hey, let us know who you are so we can see the flag in your bio and X you out as well. Because we can keep our dollars in our pocket. In fact, the continent is the place to be right now. People are really saying, I need to go visit Ghana. I need to go visit Kenya. I need to go visit Senegal. I need to go visit South Africa. These are the places I am hearing when I speak to other African Americans. I am not hearing European nations at all. We are selective. We want to be safe when we travel just like everybody else. We want to experience the culture just like everybody else. But what we will not tolerate is disrespect, because we work hard for our money. And if I'm saving to go somewhere, I'm definitely not saving to experience racism, something that I am privy to at home. If you don't want us there, we're good with it. Fernie read your country for filth, and I heard no lies. These are all facts. To be a welfare nation dependent upon the resources of other nations, you would think you know how to act with some decorum. But since you don't worry about seeing too many of our faces. But guys, tell me what you think about this, because I've already made my choice. Maybe you guys have something else to say or something to add or a different experience, and I'd like to hear about it. So leave that below. And don't forget to like, share, and please subscribe.